So good afternoon. Today's shir is Refuah Shlem Yehuda Chaim ben Esther Sarah and Leili Nishmas Eli Melech ben Levi Yitzchak and Tzvi Dov ben Chaim Pesach, Yitzchak ben Sarah Devorah bas Yitzchak, Avram ben Mordechai David, Reuven ben Shmuel, Shoshana bas Achanan, Yeshua ben Shmuel, Chaim ben Fega, Yaakov ben Yitzchak, Mordechai Netzach ben Rivka, Rachel bas Yosef, Eliezer ben Yaakov, Chaim ben Gedalia, Zalman Leib ben Moshe, Chaim Eliyahu ben Yosef, Moshe, Amichai ben Yaakov, and Gedalia ben Tzvi Ruvain, Leila Nishmatam. Today we'll be speaking about Tu B'Av. Alfie, tonight is Tu B'Av. I think they call it the Jewish Sadie Hawkins Day. Well, you're not from America, you don't know who Sadie Hawkins is, right? Yeah. Sadie Hawkins? You heard about it. So what? Tu B'Av, what's going on? Why is it such a great holiday? And what are we celebrating tonight? We don't say Ya'aleh V'Yavo. So somehow, Tu B'Av helps us to cope with Tisha B'Av. We'll see. Tu B'Av comes right after Tisha B'Av.
7 days.
The cause of the Chorban was Sinat Chinam, right? We're not up to the sheets yet. Don't jump the gun. We're not up to the sheets yet. Yeah? The cause of the Chorban was Sinat Chinam. The Gemara in Yuma, page 9, says Sinat Chinam. So what's the tikkun? On Tu B'Av, the tribes were able to intermarry. We'll speak about that, why there was a ban. So on Tu B'Av, there was a Havas Chinam. How do you translate that in English? Free love? No hate. And Tisha B'Av was not just the Churban Beis Hamikdash, Churban Beitar. You know, 60 years after the Churban Bayis Sheni, Alfie, Bar Kokhba revolted against Rome, 60 years. And then there was a terrible failure. The rebellion failed, and his capital city, Beitar, was crushed 62 years after the Churban Beis Hamikdash, also went on Tisha B'Av. The Meraglim came back on Tisha B'Av with a terrible report, right? When was the decree of the Meraglim canceled? On Tu B'Av. So the Meraglims came back on Tisha B'Av, and God decreed the entire generation should be what? Die out in the wilderness. When was that evil decree canceled, Alfie? When? Tu B'Av. Yeah. So we'll connect the tragedy of Tisha B'Av to the joy of what? Of tonight. Okay? So we're going to talk about that. Let's take a look at our sheets and see what Tu B'Av is all about. It begins with number 2. The Talmud also begins with page 2, not page 1. So we're following the Talmud. We're beginning with page 2, not on page 1. Page 2, Alfie, you have it? Yeah. Rabbi Shimon, this is the Mishnah Masechta Tainis, chapter 4. There was no more joyous days in Israel as when? Tonight and Yom Kippur. It's incredible that the Mishnah in Tainis is comparing what? Tonight but Kol Nidre. You know what I'm talking about? Who knows what's going on tonight? Tonight is Tu B'Av. Tonight won't be like any night. The Mishnah in Tainis chapter 4 is comparing tonight with what? With Kol Nidre. Isn't that mind-boggling? Omer Shivin Gamliel. L'ha Yom Tov Yisrael. There never was joyous days in Israel. Chamishasa B'Av. When is Chamishasa B'Av? Tonight. And Yom Kippur. So the Talmud, the Mishnah and Tainis is comparing the joy and the holiness of what? Of Tu B'Av with what? With Yom Kippur. Sounds pretty bizarre to me. But what do they have in common? Shebehen benois Yishalayim yotzas b'klei lavan she'ulin. All the single daughters of Jerusalem that were looking for a shidduch, they would what? Dress up in long white dresses, not miniskirts. They would wear long white dresses. Borrowed. Even the king's daughter who needed a shidduch, or even the Kohen Gadol's daughter who were rich, they all borrowed white dresses. Why does the king's daughter have to borrow a dress, Alfie?
They're not embarrassing.
Beautiful. Shelo levayesh as mi she'ein lo. Not to embarrass those poor girls looking for a shidduch who couldn't afford what? A nice long white dress. So even the king's daughter, The millionaire's daughter, the leader's daughter, the Kohen Gadol's daughter would borrow a white dress if she needed to what? A shidduch. Not to embarrass the less fortunate. Now, Alfie, what brought Tisha B'Av? Kamsa bar kamsa. Remember that was the straw that broke the camel's back? Where bar kamsa was humiliated and shamed in public. And the rabbis didn't protest. That brought the Churban. Then he went and snitched to the Roman government. So what's the tikkun? Not to humiliate somebody. The Churban was caused because someone was humiliated and shamed in public. So the tikkun is the daughters of Israel, even the king's daughter, who needed a shidduch, she would borrow a white dress not to shame and humiliate the less fortunate girls. So somehow this is the tikkun for the chet of kamsa bar kamsa. Kol ha-kelim tidun tefillah, u'benois Yushalayim yotzais v'chol v'kramim. And the single daughters of Israel would go out, dance to the music. They would dance in the vineyards. When would they do this, Alfie? Well, tomorrow, tonight or tomorrow. I think tomorrow, during the daytime. At night, they had no floodlights in those days. So I guess they would wait till tomorrow, Tu B'Av, and they would dance in the vineyards. And what would they say? Bochor. What does Bochor mean? Boy, sono inecha, array, lift up your eyes and see. What does that mean? Look, but don't touch the merchandise. Right? Mata boirelach. Look what you're choosing. Al titein einecha banoi. Don't only look at physical beauty. Who sang that song, Alfie? Beauty's only skin deep. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Who sang that song? Al titein einecha banoi. Don't look at physical beauty. Tein einecha b'mishpacha. Sheker achein. V'hevel hayofi. Isha yiras Hashem hitas halal. Sheker achein. V'hevel hayofi. What does that mean? What does that mean? Good looks are false, and beauty is meaningless. A woman who fears God will be praised. Beauty is only skin deep. So when would they go dancing in the vineyards? When? Tomorrow, and when else? Yom Kippur. Say what? You have it in English in front of you. Number 2. Shimon Gamliel said there were no happier days in Israel than the 15th of Av and Yom Kippur. On these days, the unmarried girls of Jerusalem would go out in borrowed white clothing, not to embarrass anyone who did not have the proper clothing. Right? The women would go and dance in the vineyards on Yom Kippur. Where would they get the koyach to dance on Yom Kippur? They must have taken their spirulina. I mean, where they go dancing in the vineyards on Yom Kippur? And they would say, young man, look but don't touch. Do not look only at good looks. Look at the family, because good looks are false and beauty is meaningless. That's what, who says that? Mishlei.
What young men would be in the vineyards on Yom Kippur?
Well, you see, they would make a fast musaf, Maddie. They'd make a fast musaf and hightail it down to the vineyards. And the girls would sway back and forth. Nechama, on Yom Kippur, are you reading this? Tu B'Av and also Yom Kippur. It's incredible. Couldn't you find another day where you would have a what? So it looks like the shotguns were out of business. You didn't need no shotguns.
You know they wouldn't have it today.
Today, the Haredim wouldn't allow it.
But
the Mishnah was pretty Haredi, Rabbi Yaakov. No, the Mishnah was pretty Haredi, and yet the Haredim wouldn't allow it today, would they, Yehuda? I don't know. But they're more religious than God. I don't know. But here the Mishnah, this is the oral Torah, right? But anyway, King Solomon says that good looks are meaningless. So the Vilna Gaon says, Elisheva, he doesn't understand this. If good looks are meaningless and false, how come the Holy Torah goes out of her way to describe that the mothers of Israel are all Miss Universe?
yeah, what's up with that?
If beauty is what? Is false and meaningless, why does the Torah spend so many verses describing the physical beauty of what? Of all the mothers of Israel. Each one was Miss Universe, not Miss Israel. If it's meaningless. So the Vilna Gaon says, we say this verse every Friday night, but not knowing what we're saying. Sheker achein hevel hayofi. It's Eishes Chayil. It's Mishlei 31. We're not learning correct pshat and pasuk. So look at the text again. Sheker achein, number 2 on top. Sheker achein hevel hayofi. If all a woman has is physical beauty, she's only an empty dress, there's nothing behind the physical beauty, then it's vain and meaningless, because physical beauty doesn't last. After 90 or 100 years, the physical beauty is gone. But Sheker achein hevel hayofi, Isha yirat Hashem. But if a beautiful woman is what? God-fearing. He tis halal, then she's praised for what? Her physical beauty as well. And since the mothers of Israel were all what? God-fearing women, so therefore the Torah rightly praises them for the physical beauty. If all a woman has is physical beauty, of course it's meaningless. Physical beauty, there's nothing behind it, an empty dress, it wears out. But Isha Yirat Hashem, if a beautiful woman is God-fearing, then she's praised for what? For her physical beauty as well. So that's what they would say. The girls, when they were swaying on Tu B'Av, and when on Yom Kippur, no less. Okay? What's the connection? Isn't it kind of bizarre? So somehow, if you turn over to side number 3, somehow I'll show you that Tu B'Av is the tikkun for Tisha B'Av. Tisha B'Av was Churban, Sinat Chinam. Somehow Tu B'Av, which is tonight, somehow is what? The tikkun. What do I mean by that? If you look at side number 3, this is from Rashi in Masechta Tainit. You see that? Side number 3, Rashi in Tractate Tainit, for all the 40 years that the Jews were in the desert, each Tisha B'Av, an announcement would be made that instructed everyone to dig. You hear this? Each person, each male between 20 and 60 would go and dig a grave for himself. Each man between 20 and 60 on Tisha B'Av night, he would say goodbye to his family and go dig a grave. He would then sleep in it in case he would what? Die that night for the chet of the Meraglim. The next day, an announcement would be made that the living should separate from the dead. Anyone who was alive would get up and what? Leave the grave. Each year they would do this. They would sleep in the grave on Tisha B'Av night. Reminds me of Dracula.
Wow.
You know the story of Dracula? Dracula's chasing a guy. You hear this? And he has him cornered in a dark alley. He's trapped. So the guy pulls out a silver cross. Dracula says, Svetagunish helfen. Don't you get it? Svetagunish helfen? How do you say that in English? They want to help. I'm Jewish.
Yiddish. You said it Yiddish.
Svetagunish helfen. It doesn't frighten me. Show me a Star of David. But anyway, people usually die only once. Rav Soloveitchik said these people died 39 times because no one knew if he's going to wake up the next morning. These people died 39 times. So the next paragraph in source number 3, on the 40th year, they all did this, and the next day, everyone was what? Still alive. Now, they didn't have any calendars in those days, right? They knew that Tisha B'Av, the next morning, some people would die and some would wake up. So that morning, that Tisha B'Av morning in the 40th year, they what? Everyone got up. So when they saw this, they thought that what? They had the wrong date. They didn't have no calendars. Therefore, they lay down again in their graves on each of the following nights. Until when? The 15th of the month. When is that, Alfie? Tonight. So they slept on another 6 nights in their graves until the 15th of the month. When they noticed the 15th of the month, they noticed what? Full moon. When they saw that no one died, they realized that they had not made a mistake with the date and that the 40 years were up. They established that day as what? A Yom Tov. What day did they establish as a Yom Tov? What day? Right? So look at the next line on source number 3. What's unusual about this piece of Rashi? You see that, Elisheva? What's unusual about this piece of Rashi? When did the people stop dying in the desert in the 40th year?
In the 40th
They didn't die at all, it was the year before.
When did they stop dying in the desert? When?
When they got here.
When? On the 9th of Av. They stopped dying on the 9th of Av. So why not celebrate on Tisha B'Av? The decree of death canceled was on the 40th year on Tisha B'Av. So Tisha B'Av should have been what? Happy days are here again. What? So they went back in the kever. They went back in the grave for 6 more nights until what? The 15th, when they saw the moon was full, they realized they made a boo-boo. But the gezerah of death in the desert was actually over when, Sonia?
Year before.
On Tisha B'Av, not the year before. That Tisha B'Av was over. That 6 days before it was over. But they couldn't believe it. They thought they made a mistake. So they spent an additional 6 more nights in Dracula's grave. What's the message with these people? What's the message over here?
People have to notice. People have to notice.
Oh. The Gezerah was over on Tisha B'Av. Why sleep another 6 nights in the grave? They couldn't believe that the Gezerah was over. They were so guilt-ridden. So racked with guilt, they couldn't believe that the decree of dying was what? Finito. No, we must have made a boo-boo back in the graves, guys. Right? People put you down enough, you start to believe it. People put you down enough. See the second box, Alfie? People put you down enough, you start to believe it. So, the awareness of the Geula was only on the 15th. So even though the Gezerah, the Geula actually came on the 9th of Av in the 40th year. They stopped dying. God was Meichel them the last year. But they couldn't accept it. They couldn't relate to it. So therefore, the Geula was postponed. The celebration was postponed until when? Till tomorrow. That's when you celebrate. When it sinks in. When we acknowledge and recognize the Geula, then it becomes real. So therefore, the Chag of Tu B'Av is delayed until what? Until we realize and accept it. Oh. So even though they stopped dying on the 9th of Av, they couldn't believe it. They thought they made a mistake in the calendar. So they spent another 6 useless nights in the grave. What's the message? Stop feeling sorry for yourself. Believe that tshuva helps. In order for tshuva to work, Alfie, you gotta believe. If you don't believe that tshuva helps, it ain't gonna help. These people couldn't believe it. It took 6 additional nights in the kever to finally it should sink in that HaKadosh Baruch Hu has forgiven them for the Chet HaMaraglim. So even though the Geula came on the 9th of Av, the awareness only came on Tezvav, and therefore we celebrate. So what's the message? The Geula can only come when we what? Acknowledge it and believe that it's real. So even though the 9th of Av should have been the happy day, but the Jews couldn't relate to it, so it's the 15th of Av. So why did that become, Chava, a day of wedding? Why did that become a day of wedding? Why? Huh? Geula, redemption, is expressed by a wedding. Because if you have no future, why get married? Tu B'Av became a happy day. That's the day the Jews stopped dying in the desert. If we stop dying, that means we have a future. How do you express belief in the future? Getting wedding, getting married. The hope for the future. Right? The men gave up hope. So the women, they had to take the bull by the horns. And women know how to invest in the future. So it became a day when the women asked the men to propose to them. You men have no confidence in yourself. You men are verstoppte cup. And it's the women that have hope and women that don't give up hope.
Sadie Hawkins Day.
That's yes. And therefore Rosh Chodesh Mikimya is Chag LaNashim. Rosh Chodesh is Chag LaNashim. Why? Rosh Chodesh, can you see the moon? All you see is blackness. Black is black. Do you see the moon on Rosh Chodesh? No. The beginning of the month, it's all black. When situation looks hopeless, the Jews thought they'll never stop dying. The women had hope. Rosh Chodesh, when you can't see the moon, it's pitch black. That's Dafka the Yontif for women. It's pitch black, but it ain't going to stay pitch black. The moon will rejuvenate herself, and shine again. And this goes back to Mitzrayim. Remember, the men divorced their wives. Why have children? They'll wind up in the bottom of the Nile River. It was the women that they said, there is going to be a future. God will not give up on his people. So therefore, the women dance on Tu B'Av and on Yom Kippur. Why Yom Kippur? To express their confidence that God forgives us. He forgives us on Yom Kippur for the sin of what? The Chet HaEgel. And he forgives us on Tu B'Av for the sin of what? Chet HaMaraglim. So therefore, the two worst sins the Jewish people ever committed, the Chet HaMaraglim and the Chet HaEgel. The men were depressed. They gave up hope. The women said, let's dance to the music. God loves us. He accepts our tshuva. Let's dance and celebrate. We have a future. So on Tu B'Av, we got a kapara for the Chet HaMaraglim. That's expressed by the Jews, the Jewish ladies dancing and making shidduchim. And on Yom Kippur, God said salachti for what Chet Yehuda? The Chet HaEgel. So again, the women what? Go and dance to express their confidence that God forgave us for the Chet HaMaraglim on Tu B'Av, and God forgave us for the Chet HaEgel when? On Yom HaKippurim. So both became happy days. Both became days of making shidduchim. Because if you're happy and you're confident in the future, how do you express that? By getting married. So therefore, Tu B'Av is a Chag Chatuna, Chag HaTikva Legula, a day of hope for redemption, that God accepted our tshuva, and that's why Tu B'Av shares together with what? With Yom HaKippurim. With Yom HaKippurim. So there's a powerful message over here. The Geula is very close, but if we don't believe in ourselves, if we don't believe we're worthy of Geula, Reb Saul Baruch, why should God send the Geula? If you don't believe tshuva helps, if you don't have confidence in yourself, in order for the Geula to come, you have to open your eyes and see it. See it. After 2,000 years, we're back.
That's
Right? Rav Shalom Gold always says, if you want to see, if you want to feel the Shekhinah, go to the Kotel. If you want to see the Shekhinah, go to Shuk Machna Yehuda. The Bach says in Orach Chaim, Alfie, the Bach in Orach Chaim says, when you're looking at fruits and veggies of Eretz Yisrael, what are you looking at? The Shekhinah. I wouldn't say this unless the Bach and Orach Chaim says in Hilchos Brachos, the Bach, one of the great commentaries on the tour, in Hilchos Brachos, when you're looking at the fruits and vegetables of Eretz Yisrael, he says you're looking at the Shekhinah. Isn't that incredible? My mother, Alei Shalom, when she came to visit us here in Israel, and she ate the fruits and veggies, then she came back to Brooklyn, she says, what'd you do to me? The fruits and veggies in Brooklyn taste like wood. Yeah. Now, after I tasted your fruits and veggies in Pisgah Zev, I can't eat the fruits and veggies in Avenue M. It tastes like wood. And the Bach says when you're ingesting the fruits and veggies of Eretz Yisrael, you're inculcating the Shekhinah. Wow. Not in Manhattan Beach, but in Eretz Yisrael. You're inculcating the Shekhinah. The Shekhinah is manifest in the fruits and veggies of Eretz Yisrael. And therefore, the most tastiest fruits and veggies are in Eretz Yisrael. That's pretty incredible. So the women, they have this Bina Yetera. How do you say that in English? Bina Yetera. Women's intuition. Thank you. That they can see, when men see blackness and despair, women see what? Hope and life. Hope. And the future is expressed in what? In getting married and having babies. And the same thing in Mitzrayim. The men gave up hope. They all divorced their wives. Why have babies? They'll wind up in the bottom of the Nile River. But the ladies, led by Miriam, she said, Abba, your decree is worse than Pharaoh. Remember, he separated from his wife? Why is your decree worse than Pharaoh? Pharaoh only was decreed on what? On the Jewish males to be killed. By divorcing mommy, your Jewish girls can't be born either. So Amram, the chief rabbi of Israel, he listened to his little girl, and he what? He remarried his ex-wife, Yocheved, and who was born? Moses. Wasn't with little Miriam. No Moses, no Redeemer, no lawgiver. Right? Little Miriam. He could have said, I'm the chief rabbi of Israel. You're giving me Musar. Go back to Romper Room. Remember Romper Room? Go to your milk and cookies. But he listened to his little girl. That's the message. Listen to your little girl, even though you're the chief rabbi. Women, girls have a Bina Yetera. And because of her, Moses was born. Without her, no lawgiver, no redeemer. Right? So, Tisha B'Av is when the decree, Tu B'Av, when the Jews finally, the decree of what? Of dying in the Midbar stopped. It became a day of hope. Also, Tu B'Av was the day when the decree, now during the 14 years, Yehuda, when the Yeshua ben Nun conquered and divided Pisgat Zev, Eretz Yisrael, for those 14 years, Chava, tribes could not intermarry. Gemara Baba Basra tells us that. For those 14 years, because the tribes would intermarry, be a mix-up with the Yerusha, who would get what? A woman would marry, a woman with no brothers would marry a man from a different tribe, and her children would go after what? The tribe of the father, so the tribe where she comes from would lose out on the Yerusha. So for the 14 years that it took Yeshua ben Nun to conquer and divide Israel, if a boy from Shevet Ruvain fell in love with a girl from Shevet Dan, it was Romeo and Juliet. Yehuda, that's where they got it from. If a girl from Shevet Naphtali fell in love with a boy from what? Shevet Asher, no lovey-dovey, broken hearts. But in the 14th year, after Israel, the land was divided, Yeshua ben Nun and his Bezdin sat down. Which day was it? Tu B'Av. And they said, this decree is now null and void. Since Eretz Yisrael is already divided, each tribe got their parcel. Now it doesn't matter if the parcel passes out. Once each Shevet got what's coming to them after the Goyral division, Yeshua ben Nun and his court sat down and happened to be Tu B'Av, and the decree of what? Of tribes not intermarrying was what? Canceled, annulled. So Tu B'Av became what? Happy days are here again. So the boy from Shevet Naphtali can now marry his sweetheart from Shevet Asher. And vice versa. Wow, the decree of not intermarrying was canceled. It was only temporary. Before the land was divided. Once the land was divided, Yeshua ben Nun says, now is no problem. So that's another reason why Tu B'Av became such a happy day in Klal Yisrael, when the ban against intermarrying tribes was lifted, canceled, and annulled. There was no more need for it. That Gezerah came down on Tu B'Av. That Gezerah came down what? On Tu B'Av. On Tu B'Av, also something very strange. Haruge Beitar. Remember we said 62 years after the Churban Beis HaMikdash? The battle of the Bar Kokhba rebellion was crushed. And Bar Kokhba took a terrible defeat. The Rambam says that the Churban Beitar, the casualties were as much as the Churban Bayis Sheni. Only 62 years after Churban Bayis Sheni, the disaster of Haruge Beitar was as severe, says Rambam, and as brutal as the Churban Bayis Sheni. So Haruge Beitar. So what happened? Hadrian crushed the rebellion. He crushed the rebellion, right? For 3 years, he would not allow the dead Jewish soldiers to be buried. For 3 years, he would not allow the Jewish soldiers to be buried. 3 years later, when Hadrian was deposed, the new emperor allowed the bodies to be buried. What day was it? Tu B'Av. Tu B'Av. What do you mean he wouldn't allow the bodies to be buried?
Well, that he came, stunk the place up.
But that's a miracle, that the bodies didn't decay. They didn't rot. In the lying 3 years in the sun, the bodies did not decay and did not rot. So that's the reason. Look what Jews celebrate. That we can bury our dead, we celebrate. Isn't that bizarre? 3 years the dead Jewish soldiers of Bar Kokhba's army were not allowed to be buried until Hadrian was deposed. And the decree was canceled on Tu B'Av, and the miracle was, Alfie, the bodies did not decay and did not rot. It took place on what? On Tu B'Av. Now, why did Hadrian refuse to allow the dead Jewish victims to be buried? Why? Why? Huh? Do you know that Hitler went around in Germany destroying Jewish cemeteries? The Nazis destroyed Jewish cemeteries. Why don't you let the dead rest? You're picking on live Jews, but no, Hitler and the Nazis went to destroy Jewish cemeteries. Who did they follow? Hadrian. Not allowed the dead to rest. Why? You want to kill living Jews. Why don't you leave the dead alone? Chava, you sitting down?
Yeah.
Hadrian and Hitler were evil geniuses. If you can uproot the Jewish graves, if you can eliminate, what does a Jewish grave mean? We have a past. We have a past. We have a Masorah. We have grandparents and great-grandparents. We go all the way back to Sinai. If I have a past, a kever to visit, then I also have a future. But if you take away the past of the Jewish people, destroy our grave, not allowing the dead to be buried, if you take away our past, Yehuda, you eliminate our future as well. Tu B'Av, when the Jewish dead of Hadrian soldiers were allowed to come to rest, a kever to visit, that means I have a past. If I have a past, I also have a future. I just didn't come from nowhere. I have roots in this country. There's a burial plot in Hebron and Har HaZeisim going back thousands of years. Therefore, Abu Mamzer denies us Har HaZeisim. Why is he so crazy about Har HaZeisim? They throw stones whenever a Jewish person comes up there to visit a grave. He's showered with rocks. Why, Yehuda? Because if we have a past going back 2,000 years in Har HaZeisim, that means we belong here. We have a future. So the Arabs are so what? Hostile in Har HaZeisim. They want to take away our past. To take away our past, they take away our future. But if we have a past, I have a future. If I have a future, I'll get married and have a mishpucha. The root continued on and on. Therefore, a grave is so important. Only if I have a past do I have a future. That's pretty incredible. That's pretty incredible, right? Now, we did Kiddush Levana. When did we do Kiddush Levana last week, Yehuda? Miyad Acha Tisha B'Av.
Couldn't do it on
Why?
Saturday night because it was joy.
Right. So why couldn't we wait till Matzah Shabbat? What's the rush, Chava? Why do you have to? I'm hungry. I'm thirsty. Kiddush Levuna. B'Shol Baruch, can't you wait till Shabbos night? Vus brennt. How do you say that in English? Vus brennt. Where's the fire? The Chama, where's the fire? Remember I told you that somehow Kiddush Levana couldn't wait. You don't have to eat before. No, that's good, but you don't have to. In our shul, hungry and thirsty, we did Kiddush Levana. Why not wait till Matzah Shabbos? What is the tikkun for Tisha B'Av? I'm going to tell you, Alfie, you're sitting down. Somehow Kiddush Levana is the tikkun for what? Tisha B'Av. You're sitting down? Tisha B'Av was sinat chinam. Remember? Baseless, how do you say that? Hatred for free? Free hatred. Baseless hatred. Gemara and Yuma says that's what called Tisha B'Av. What is the tikkun for sinat chinam? Ahavat chinam. When you do Kiddush Levana, you do something very strange. In the middle of Kiddush Levana, we're not moon worshippers. We're praising God for the moon, right? And the moon is the closest heavenly body. We're not worshiping the moon. We're worshiping Kodesh Baruch Hu, thanking Him for His handiwork. And the closest heavenly body we see is the moon. But in the middle of Kiddush Levana, we do something very strange. We turn to a fellow Jew who we don't even know, and we say, Shalom Aleichem. What does it got to do with price of tea in China? What does a Shalom Aleichem got to do with Kiddush Levana, David? Very strange. The Gemara in Sanhedrin 42 says, when you do Kiddush Levana, Ki'ilu mikabel pnei hashchina. I think in English you say close but no cigar. When you do Kiddush Levana, it's make-believe you're receiving God's Shekhinah. You're not really receiving God's Shekhinah. You're only what? Looking at His handiwork. But it's Ki'ilu. When you do Kiddush Levana, it's make-believe receiving God's presence. You're not really receiving God's presence. You're only seeing His handiwork, right? The moon. Says the Maral Miprag, but when you turn to a fellow Jew with a shmeichel, how do you say that in English? A smile. Now, some people are constipated, they can't smile, you know. If you turn to a fellow Jew with a smile and a shalom aleichem, mikabel pnei hashchina. You hear what the Maral says? So every Jew has a tzelem Elohim. Every Jew has a chelik Elohai mimal. So therefore, even to a single Jew, you say shalom aleichem. That's not proper grammar, Chava. You know grammar. Shalom aleich to a single. You say shalom aleikum, salam aleikum. Even to one person. Why? Because you're greeting him and the Shekhinah that lives inside of him. The chelik Elohai mimal tzelem Elohim. So the tikkun Tisha B'Av was sinat chinam. Kiddush Levana, you're demonstrating what? Ahavat chinam. You don't even know the guy from Adam. You give him a shalom aleichem with a smile. Because when you're greeting him, you're greeting his godly soul. I'm a soul man. You're greeting his chelik Elohai mimal tzelem Elohim. So the Maral Miprag says, therefore you can't wait till Shabbos night. You display this Ahavat Chinam on Matzah Tisha B'Av. You're greeting a person you don't even know, and you're displaying love to him because he's part of what? The Tzelem Elohim, the Chelik Elohai Mimal. So when you're greeting a fellow Jew, says the Maral, you are Mekabel Pnei Hashchina. Isn't that incredible? So you say Shalom Aleichem even to a single person. So if I really believe that, how could I be upset? How could I curse out the guy or express anger? When I'm looking at him, I'm also what? Looking at his Shekhinah that lives inside of him. So that's why we do what? Kiddush Levana after Tisha B'Av. And that's why the ladies would dance in the vineyards when on Tu B'Av. On Tu B'Av, the tikkun for Tisha B'Av. It's just amazing. Is Geula an act or an attitude, Yehuda? Is Geula an act or an attitude?
Probably yes.
Who caused Tisha B'Av originally? The Meraglim. The Meraglim, the men, came back with the evil report. It was Tisha B'Av. The men believed it. The women did not. So the men caused Tisha B'Av through the Chet Meraglim, and the tikkun is brought by women on Tu B'Av. On Tu B'Av. Isha Gematria Musar. Isha is Gematria Musar. Isha, how do you say wife in Hebrew? Isha has the same numerical value, Alfie, as what? As rebuke. The job of a wife is to rebuke her husband. But Isha and Musar has the same numerical value as Davash. Honey, I'm home. The wife has to rebuke her husband, but she has to do it in a honey, lovey-dovey way. If it's not done Davash way, Chava, forget about it. It's counterproductive. Isha Gematria Musar, Isha Gematria Davash as well. So women are a much higher level than men. Rashi tells us that the mothers of Israel were much greater prophets than the fathers of Israel. Avraham, Yitzchak, and Yaakov are great prophets, right? But the wives are much greater, Alfie, much greater. Who's the greatest of the Avos? Yaakov, right? Yet, Rachel and Leah, they're also prophets, knew much better than Yaakov. Yaakov didn't realize that Kahuna, Malchus, Mashiach, will come from the one that he doesn't want. He didn't want Leah, right? Get lost. Hello? Rachel and Leah. Rachel, schemed with Leah to get her in there, right? Remember, Mickey? Because Rachel and Leah knew without the one that he didn't want, there'd be no kahuna. How do you say that in English? The big kahuna? There'd be no kingship and no Mashiach. Who does Mashiach come from? Yehuda. Who's Yehuda's mother? Leah, the one he rejected. Where does kingship come from and priesthood? Levi. Also from Leah. So Yaakov, the chosen one of the Avos, didn't know without the woman he rejected, there'd be no Messiah. Hello? No priest, no king, no Levites. But the women knew better. So Rachel and Leah schemed behind his back to get Leah in the picture. Yaakov didn't know that. Abraham and Sarah. Abraham thought that Yishmael and Yitzchak, can we all get along? Can we all get along, right? Abraham thought that Yishmael and Yitzchak could divide the land. Hello, 3,800 years ago. Yishmael, Abu Mamzer, and Yitzchak. So Abraham said, can't we get along? We'll divide the land, right? What did Sarah say? Get rid of him. He's not willing to share. Abraham, take a pill and lie down. Ishmael, Abu Mamzer, can't share with Yitzchak because he wants to eliminate Yitzchak. It's not a war over territory. It's a war of annihilation against us. Abraham couldn't see it. Who saw it? Sarah Imenu. You have to get rid of that terrorist. He's not willing to share. Nobody home. For 3,800 years later, Rabbeinish, hello, concessions. The more concessions, like Winston Churchill says, what did he say? You appease her, if you feed the alligator, he'll eat you last, right? So who are you making concessions to? Sarah said, hello, wake up. Wake up in reality. So women have this bina yetera. They see much more clearly. They can see right through. Men are fooled and deceived, but not a woman, Alfie. A woman can see right through the shtick. Why? Why have a bina yetera? Why? Where was woman created from? The nose? Why didn't God use Adam's pinky? Remember Adam's rib? Adam's rib. Spencer Tracy, right? Adam's rib. Why didn't God use a pinky to create Chava? Why not a nose? He took inside. He took, the rib is inside. So women have this uncanny ability to what? See inside. You can't deceive them. So what's the message, Alfie? Listen to your wife. Huh? If she speaks to you in a davash way, honey, I'm home. Right. Right? You know the story. Why does the chatan break the glass under the chuppah? Why not the kala? Why the chatan? It's the last time he'll get a chance to put his foot down. No, Chava? Last time, right? But anyway, so tonight and tomorrow is a day of what? Of hope, of happiness, of belief that tshuva works, that God accepts my tshuva. Don't be so hard on yourself. Look, if you look back on your sheet on number 3, Yehuda, you see the second box? People put you down enough, you start to believe it. You see number 3, the second box? People put you down enough, you start to believe, you're no good, you're no good, you're no good. Right? The bad stuff is easier to believe. You ever notice that? Yeah. You have to believe in yourself. The men couldn't relate to that. They slept in the grave 6 extra nights, Yonatan. No need for that. The women said, "Verstop the cup. Let's go and get married. Have a mishpucha, future. God has forgiven you for the sin of the Meraglim. Get out of your graves. What's with you guys?" 600,000 widows crossed into Pisgat Zev. Can you imagine, Dr. Hackett? The decree of death was not on the women. The worst sins of the Jewish people, the Meraglim and the Chet HaEgel, women did not participate in either. So women demonstrated that what? They didn't need the kapara. They didn't need the kapara. And yet they demonstrated to the men that what? You gotta believe. It's not enough to believe in God. Who said that? I just did. It's not enough to believe in God, Yonatan. You have to believe what? In yourself. How do I know? Yonatan, Parshas Noach. The Torah says Noach ish tzadik tamim. Doesn't say that about Moses. Doesn't say about Abraham. Noach was an ish tzadik tamim. Not only a tzaddik, he was a perfect tzaddik. And he wasn't even Jewish. What's the message, Judah? You don't have to be Jewish to eat Levi's rye bread. I mean, you don't have to be Jewish to what? To be a tzaddik. The only one in the Chumash that's called a ish tzaddik tamim, he's not even Jewish. Kawinky dinky? Noach wasn't Jewish. And the Torah gives him praises to the nines. Moses doesn't get that praise. Ish tzaddik tamim. A perfect righteous tzaddik, Noach. And what? So what? Perfect righteous man, that's what the Torah says. And yet Rashi makes a bizarre statement. Noach miktane yamuna hoya, Benjamin. That makes sense to you? After the Torah praises him to the nines, using praises that Moses doesn't get, he's an ish tzaddik tamim, a perfect tzaddik. Rashi makes a strange statement, Chanoch, Noach miktane yamuna. What does that mean? Noach was a small believer.
He didn't believe in Shua for everybody else.
Noach was a great believer in God, but he didn't believe in himself, Sonia. He didn't daven for the people. I should daven, I'm a doormat, I'm badagunisht. Noach is tzaddik tamim, he was a great man, a great believer, but miktane emunah, he didn't believe in himself, that I can make a difference. I'm special, I'm unique, I can save the world. He said, nah, why would God listen to me? Ich bin agunisht. Miktane emunah. So Noach could have been the father of the Jewish people. He could have been. But he didn't believe in himself. Not enough to believe in God. He believed in God big time, Chanoch. He didn't believe in himself. And therefore he's not the father of the Jewish people. Who is the father of the Jewish people? Abraham. Because Abraham believed in himself. What did he say to God? Chalil alecha, how dare you? Shall the judge of the entire universe not do justice? You want to destroy the city with innocent children there? I won't allow it. Could Noach talk like that? What did he say to God? Chalil alecha, how dare you? Shall the judge of the entire universe not do justice? Will you kill the innocent with what? With the guilty? That's how you talk to God? Yes. Did he get fired? Did Abraham get fired? No, he got a bonus.
I loved him the most.
Huh? He loved him the most because God loves a good argument. All the prophets gave God a good argument, Evelyn. All of them. The only one who didn't, Noach. It's incredible. I'm a good guy. God says, believe in yourself. Show me what you're made of. When the going gets tough, tough go shopping? No, the tough get going. Noach was Miktane emunah. He couldn't believe in his own greatness and uniqueness. So he's out. It's Avram, Yitzchak, and Yaakov who all gave God a hard time. They argued with him. That's who God said, bravo. All the Nevi'im, take a look. Yonah, Yirmiyahu, Yecheskel, they all are. Chavakuk, how he talks to God. If I talk like that, they'd throw me out of yeshiva. Huh?
Won't be the first time.
What? We are special. We're unique. No one can do it my way. Da 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 da. No one can do it my way, David. Nobody. That's the message of Tu B'Av. The women had to tell their husbands and their future chasanim, I am special and you are special. We all have a godly soul that's unique and special. Right? Don't underestimate your greatness. Get out of the grave. What are you laying in the grave 6 nights for? What are you, off the wall? Get out of there. Marry me and we'll make babies. Stop feeling sorry for yourself. Stop being so depressed. It's enough with the guilt. You got to move on. Moving on, moving on. That's what Tu B'Av is all about. Chag Sameach. Thank you.